Okay, we have a 99 Mazda Millenia here. Going to be showing you how to replace this driver's side CV axle. Got our new axle here. This is from Detroit Axle. I've had pretty good luck with these, so this is the ones I usually go with, you know, with the aftermarket. I think they rebuild the original ones or something, but anyways, I've had good luck with their stuff. So we're going to go ahead and get started and get the tire off. We're going to get a 13/16. I've got an impact, so I'm just going to go ahead and jack it up and get it on jack stands or blocks here. Okay, and so we're just going to get started. The key here is just to remove what we need to remove, so we're not having to put back any more than we have to. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna do, because it'll be easier to take these up here loose than it would be to pop this in and out, I'm just gonna take those right there, and those are 14s. So we're gonna go ahead and just take those two nuts right there loose. That's gonna be our first step. Okay, now we're going to take this clamp right here. It's a 12. It just holds our wire for our magnet that reads off of that ring for the ABS there. And we've got two right there. We're going to take those, are 12s too. Okay, we're just going to remove this pin for this nut right here and slip this thing out. Okay, this is a 7mm, or 17 rather. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Okay, actually what I've done is took it loose. I'm going to use a rubber mallet. Be cautious, do not hit this with a hammer. You'll damage your threads and it'll be useless, and you'll be replacing that whole piece there. And don't ask how I know this. And sometimes a rubber mallet don't want to work with these, so if you have to use a regular hammer, just be warned that it's a good possibility that you can mess your threads up and you'll be having to replace that. So with that popped loose, we can go ahead, and we've got quite a bit of slack here now. Not going to take that completely loose just yet. I'm going to go ahead. I've got to get a punch in here, and we've got to knock. This is creased in, and we need to knock that back out of that groove there so I can get that off of there. Okay, so just like that, just went in with that small punch. I've got a axle nut removing socket here. This is I believe this calls for a 32 or so, but I've got a 33 here, and it works just fine though, because it's 6-sided. Okay, now I just took that off with an impact. Now there's going to be cases where you can't get it with the impact maybe, and then you'll have to put the tire back on and just remove that little centerpiece, which is easy to knock it from the back side with the tire off, just to punch it out. But anyways, put your wheel back on and lower it, the weight on it. And I've had to take a 4-foot piece of cheater bar sometimes to get some of these. So anyways, we're going to go ahead, I'm going to take my rubber mallet and start knocking this back. We should have all the slack we need here now to work this out of here, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so that was plenty enough room to do the trick and get it, and this thing is falling completely apart, and I can show you here if I can get it to come on out. But yeah, this is the boot and everything that's coming off of there and split, and it's just come apart. So it's actually starting to make quite a bit of racket. But I'm going to attempt to get this out of here without having to remove anything else. You can see that we don't have a whole lot of room. I'm going to try to use some pry bars. See how difficult it is to pop this out of here first, but I may have to actually go rent the CV axle puller, which has actually got a hook and it's got a slide hammer and it's made for this. So I'm going to see what I can do with it before I go to that. Okay, so here's what wound up working. Was a crowbar. So that was in there like that, and I've got a big crowbar here, and I just come up above here at an angle on that side, and it fits in there just perfectly the way it works out. And you don't just keep constant pressure, you sit there and rock it, do this number, and then twist it a little bit, turn it, have it neutral so you can turn it, and then just keep doing that, you know, with a lot of force, and it'll pop right out of there. So I didn't have to rent that tool after all for this one, but it was in there pretty good, and that's all that holds it is those clips right there. And I mean, they really hold on for dear life sometimes. So we're gonna need a new seal here, and I'm gonna have to get a pan down here because I'm losing a little bit of fluid. Not a lot coming out, but go ahead and get a pan, and I'm gonna have to get a seal for that before we can stick the new CV axle in. Okay, so I just took a little piece of wood and just tapped that new CV axle seal in there, and I'm just getting ready to slide the axle back into place. Make sure, see, it's got a little fluid running out. Make sure to take your finger and run around that seal so it makes sure that it's wet when it goes in. Okay, so putting this in, you got just enough room to come right through here and go up into your seal there. And then you just bend this back down. Go ahead and get this started in your splines. And what I'll do is kind of get it started and rock this back and forth and use this to push it and gently push it into its place there. That's all I did. I was just doing this motion. Once I slipped it back into here, just gently back and forth and knock it. It'll go right back, and you can tell it won't have much clearance back in there when it goes back into its place. So only other thing we need to do now is get our axle nut back on here. We've got that locked in, and we'll need to get 200 foot-pounds on this. And what we're going to do is just snug it down a little bit, and once we do that, we're just going to go ahead and get the wheel back on. We can take this tire, flip it over, and punch. We can just take and knock our center cap out easily. Okay, and then once, say we put the tire back on, we're going to lower the tire, lower the jack, and then we'll be able to torque it to 200 foot-pounds. So but right now we're just going to go ahead and work on getting everything back together here now that we've got this in place. Okay, so one thing I had forgot to mention that I removed was this plastic piece here, and it's being held on by, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 7 10 millimeters. It was setting up under there like that, and this thing's kind of broken. Not even going to worry with it, but I had to take that off to be able to get in here to this CV axle a little bit. The other thing, just to kind of recap what I've took loose, so we took this cable here, and we took the tie rod here out of the way to be able to give us slack. That's all we've removed to be able to get that CV axle out. Of course, the nut holding the CV axle itself. Now, one thing about it, be cautious with your brake lines. You know, people fuss about these, but these things are pretty tough. But be cautious and don't be just yanking on it, putting a lot of pressure, because you're having to move this thing around when you're doing this. So be careful not to damage your brake line. If you're worried about it, just go ahead and take your caliper off. I didn't feel the need to do that here to be able to slide it in there. I had enough room. But if you're worried with it, go ahead and just take your caliper off. There's only a couple of bolts there, and take that off if you want. So we're just going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on first, and then we'll come up here and put these others. I'm going 45 foot-pounds on this tie rod nut here. Okay, I'm just slipping this piece right back up into here, and we're going to get this nut back on top. And I've got a pin for this, and I'm going to go 45 on this as well, working it down. Okay, actually wound up using the old castle nut. This one here is just not tall enough to where the hole location is, so that pin would have kind of been useless. So we're just going to go ahead and get this cable here routed back in its spot and reclamp down. And this is just for the ABS, and we just got a couple of bolts that go right there. You can see into that, and then we'll just connect it right here. Okay, lastly, I'm just replacing these two nuts on this arm here. This didn't come with a kit, but I found them sold individually on eBay, and these were like 45 a piece, 45 to 50 a piece for these. So if you need to replace these, you can find them there. I know I just did a search, you know, for the tie rods, etc., and was able to find this. So this doesn't appear to be too bad, so we're going to leave it alone for now. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down, and then we're going to work on getting this wheel back on so we can get the final torque on this. We're going to be going quite a bit of 200 foot-pounds on this. Okay, so we got our tire on. Going to finish torquing the axle nut. We're going to go ahead and get it lowered back down. I've just got 3 lugs in there for now because I'm going to be taking it right back off. Okay, if you don't have a torque wrench that goes up that high, get yourself a breaker bar and a big piece of cheater pipe and get it really tight. You're going to get it as tight as you can get it. Okay, got the wheel back off. Just take yourself a good punch, crimp that right there, and then you're all finished up with that. So we're going to go ahead and get the tire back on here. Okay, we got the tire lowered here, just getting the final torque on the lugs. I'm just going 100 foot-pounds on these, and we'll go ahead and get, last we're just going to get our little center cap back into place. And like I said, it's easier to pop this out from the back side, and I don't see how you could do it from the front really without damaging it. So we're all finished up here. The only thing we got left to do is just take it down the road for a test drive and see how it does. Hopefully it stops all that noise and the popping and everything. So hopefully that's been helpful, and I thank y'all for watching.